Hello, composers! As always, begin the week by going over the pieces your classmates created last week and filling out the feedback forms. Also, check out my responses to your proposals for Comp Project 1. This week we'll be focusing on constructing melodies. The melody is the main collection of pitches laid out in a strictly horizontal, linear manner that expresses the composer's idea independent of harmony. That's a really complicated way of saying it's the tune. So how do you write one? We'll start with some general considerations. For most professional voices, and for instruments that are closely adhering to convention, the melodic range or span of notes in a typical melody is about a tenth. So C to C and then maybe go up to an E or maybe down to an A. Or you could split the difference and go B to D, an octave above. This has its roots in the range of the human voice, specifically in plain chant during the medieval era and through the Renaissance until the early Baroque. And if you're writing generally and not for a specific performer, it's a pretty good rule of thumb. This can also be really important to keep in mind, as all instruments have specific ranges of pitches that they can play. If you exceed the range, you won't get anything. The Study of Orchestration by Samuel Adler and Instrumental Arranging by Gary White are great references for the range of most common instruments, what ranges can be expected from different levels from amateur to professional, and things to avoid due to difficulty, like thumb key trills on saxophones, or how to correctly write a score that mixes different transposing instruments. But since the Study of Orchestration is its own class, we won't be able to look into it too much here, so when in doubt, ask a performer, which is a really good rule for composers generally. Generally speaking, melodies move in a stepwise manner with occasional consonant leaps. Let's start with a look at Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. It begins with a consonant leap up a fifth. Then it ascends by step before a downward stepwise descent. For most melodies, any leap to a perfect interval is considered consonant, as is a leap to thirds or sixths. Seconds and sevenths are considered dissonant, and depending on the time period, a perfect fourth can be considered a dissonance as well. Tritones are always dissonant and are generally kind of hard, especially for singers. The idea of moving by a combination of consonant leaps and resolving by steps can also be turned around. Move a step and then leap in the opposite direction. This is the classic escape tone that you learned about in Theory 1. Generally, a succession of leaps is to be avoided, but arpeggiations of a chord are considered to be acceptable. Look at the minuets from Bach's Suite No. 1 for solo cello, which is your assigned listening for this week. How do they move in leaps and steps? Are the leaps larger than a fifth in general? Are they outlining chords if there is more than one leap in a row? And what is the range? You may find that Bach goes a bit larger than a tenth, but he was writing for a professional cellist and not a vocalist.